This is Super Yacht News with E. Sisman.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. Okay, our first story comes from the Netherlands, where the Dutch shipbuilder Damen Shipyards is suing the Dutch government for compensation following a raft of sanctions against Russia after they invaded Ukraine, which Damen says has caused it to lose business. Now, under the Dutch sanctions rules, no yacht being built for a Russian owner can be delivered regardless of whether the buyer is under sanctions or not. Now, Damen produces the now very popular yacht support vessels, such as the one that Jeff Bezos has, Abiona, and Roman Abramovich has a support vessel from Damen called Garçon. However, Damen also builds commercial and even military ships. But several contracts for yachts had to be scrapped because of the sanctions, which were introduced in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, a spokesperson told the Reuters news agency the company even had an engineering facility in Russia before the war started, but this is now being closed. Damen shipyards refused to say how many yachts had been affected by the rules placed on them by the Dutch government, but in March 2022, Damen was working on 2 orders for Russian customers. Now, Damen Shipyards is not the only Dutch yacht builder to be affected by the sanctions since the war in Ukraine started. Heessen was completing the 80-metre or 262-foot yacht Galactica, which is now named Genesis. They were building that at the time for the owner, who was also the owner of Heessen Yachts at the time, Vagit Alekperov. He has since stood down from that position, and the shares of the shipyard have been transferred into a trust, and he apparently sold the yacht Galactica to another buyer, and the vessel was renamed Genesis. That sale was done under the supervision of the Dutch government, and they authorised the sale. The yacht was laid up in the Netherlands for over a year because it couldn't be delivered, and it had been completed, so apparently they allowed that vessel to be sold. As well as Heessen, also Amels, which is now owned by Damen, is currently finishing a 100-metre plus yacht being built for a Russian owner, which under Dutch laws will not be able to be delivered until the sanctions are lifted. The Dutch government has said in April 2022 that they prevented 20 yachts from leaving the country, something we reported on at the time. Now, the Customs Department of the Dutch government said that of those 20 yachts, 14 were under construction, 4 were undergoing maintenance, and 2 were in winter storage. 2 of the yachts on that list are over 100 metres long, although we can't identify the names of those yachts. Now, according to Bloomberg, who also reported on the subject, the court papers by Damen Shipyards to sue the government were filed in May this year, but no date has been set for any hearing. We'll obviously keep you up to date on that as it progresses. We'll move on to the next story now, but it is connected to that story because the Dutch government has apparently approved the delivery of a Russian purchased superyacht. The 67-metre or 221-foot yacht, which was Project 823 when it was being built by Fedship, has been named Sabia. Now, it's a 2023 yacht, and the owner of the yacht, his name is Alexander Shukov. Now, he is Russian. He was born in Moscow in 1954, but he has lived in the UK since 1993, and he holds a British passport. His previous yacht, which was also named Sabia, was on sale at the Monaco Yacht Show last year in 2022. Now, because of the laws in the Netherlands, as we just described in the previous story, the delivery must have been approved by the government in the Netherlands, as per that previous article. Now, Zhukov is not on any sanctions, of course. He lives in London. He was linked, however, to a complex network of offshore firms dating back to the 1990s, which was released in the Panama Papers. His daughter was once married to Roman Abramovich, so that's Abramovich's ex-wife. And also, he owns properties in Sardinia and in Moscow, according to the Guardian newspaper. He has been unaffected by the sanctions since Russia invaded Ukraine. So that vessel has been delivered. Clearly, approval must have been given by the Dutch government. Anyway, we'll move on to the next story. Alfa Nero is back in Falmouth Harbour after that massive fire in Antigua last week. The day after the yacht moved out of the harbour, the marina building was razed to the ground in a massive fire, which we reported on in the previous video, episode 254. Now, ironically, whilst the island was being battered by this massive storm and many homes were being flooded, a fire took hold and many businesses were ruined at a cost of 100 jobs, according to the Prime Minister, Gaston Brown. Now, luckily, nobody was injured in the fire. Anyway, Alfa Nero moved to St. John's Harbour on the west side of the island prior to the storm, as you can see in this footage here sent in by one of our subscribers. But she has now returned to the marina, but she's docked bow in, but in the same location. Apparently, the rebuilding of the marina buildings has already restarted. We are looking to get information further to the cause of that fire, but so far we've not been able to get any replies from the government of Antigua. All right, so we'll move on. One thing from our last video. In our last video, we talked about motor yacht Aurora, a Russian-owned vessel that had started to move around. It's been laid up in Turkey since the beginning of the war. We said in that video that the yacht was managed by Moran Yachts. Well, they contacted us and they said that they no longer manage that vessel, and they haven't done since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and they don't manage any other Russian yachts. Now, the information we got was still on one of the AIS data providers, so clearly that's not been updated, but they're saying that they haven't managed that vessel since last year. All right, so we'll move on, and we've got a Yotspot here. This is motor yacht Kismet in the Bahamas. It's a 95 metre or 312 foot Lursen. The yacht is now owned by Eric Schmidt. He was the chap who bought Alfa Nero, but then backed out because of all the issues with the vessel in Antigua. The old owner was the Pakistani-American Shahid Khan. Now, that vessel has been on sale for a long time, few years, and it was due to be at the Monaco Yacht Show this year, and we were in negotiations to get on board and do a tour. So obviously, I was very excited about that. It's a big yacht, a high-profile yacht. And just about a week before the Monaco Yacht Show actually happened, we got news that the vessel had actually been sold, and therefore it would not be attending the show. So we were pretty gutted about that. It was a 2014 build from Lursen. And yeah, so anyway, the video was in the Bahamas, taken a few weeks ago by one of our subscribers who did not give a name to put on the screen. What I'm going to be doing in this series of vlogs is recording the journey across the Atlantic. All right, if you want to see the 10-part vlog filmed on board a yacht I was on crossing the Atlantic and beyond, sign up to patreon.com/esysman. You'll find behind-the-scenes videos and extras not published on YouTube, including behind-the-scenes videos from the Monaco Yacht Show. We also recently made a video showing how we make the Super Yacht News videos, as well as the Patreon chat series and the Patreon-only Q&A series. And you'll get early access to YouTube features advert-free, including the first Super Yacht Tour and the Bridge Tour and the second Super Yacht Tour from the Monaco Yacht Show 2023. They're already live on Patreon. And don't forget the Super Yacht News channel. It's all the goodness of this channel chopped up into smaller chunks. So these news videos are chopped up into individual stories. You can find them if you type at superyacht-news into YouTube. Please be sure to get in touch if you've got any information. You know how to do that at the normal fashion. You can get us on Instagram, on Facebook Messenger, on Twitter, and on Threema. Be sure to like this video, very important for the algorithm. Hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for future notifications. All right, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.
¿Qué quiere decir Kismet? Bésame aquí.
No sé.